Today on Southern Keto, I want to show you how I make 2 delicious casserole recipes using leftover ingredients for things that I've made already. If you have leftovers, you can always eat the same thing over and over, but what I like to do is take some of the ingredients I have left over, mix in some other ingredients, and have a completely different meal. Because you know, they say variety is the spice of life, so why not have some variety? You don't have to make something and eat the same thing 3-4 days in a row. Change it up a little bit. And also, if you make these casseroles, they freeze really easy. So you could cut it in half, have one for now, and have one for later. Both of these recipes are favorites of ours, and I'll show you how we do it. Stick around. So the first thing we're gonna make is a shepherd's pie. And that uses my mashed potato recipe. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it up there and down in the description, as long as the recipe of how I make it. It's got a lot of vegetables in it. Some you can leave out if you want to make it even lower carb. But to me, everything together is perfect, and the carb count is still gonna be really good. So let me show you all the ingredients you need to put together this shepherd's pie. So the first thing you're gonna need is 2 pounds of ground beef. I like this grass-fed beef. It's 85-15, but at least get you an 80-20. You're gonna need some celery, and if you want your celery to last a long time, just cut the ends off like this, stick it down in a glass of clean water, and it'll stay good for 2-3 weeks at least. You're gonna need some carrots. If you wanna keep it really low carb, you can leave those out, but they are really good in there. You're gonna need a small Vidalia sweet onion, or whatever kind of onion that you like. And then just some real simple seasonings. We're just gonna use salt and pepper. If you wanna kick it up a little bit, kick it up a little bit, but this is supposed to be an easy, simple, delicious dish. You're gonna need some garlic. Now, if you don't like garlic, we probably can't be friends, but if there's ever a vampire invasion, you come this way. We don't have vampires around here for about a 3-mile radius, because I love the garlic. And definitely optional are these sweet peas, but now a cup only has 14 grams of net carbs, so I'm not real worried about that, except I think I hear the keto police. It is the keto police! Sorry about that, I had to serve a little time, but you're gonna need some parsley flakes. And then you're gonna need this leftover mashed potato recipe. And if you don't have any leftover keto mashed potatoes, then the recipe will be down there. You can just make them all from scratch. It's probably about 3 cups, just enough to top this shepherd's pie. And then for the celery, you're gonna need 4 stalks of that. And we're gonna chop this up in just a minute. We're gonna do about 3/4 of a cup of carrots, and I didn't have a 3/4 cup, so I just piled this half cup up real high. And then a small Vidalia onion. I'm using the whole thing. And I'm just gonna cut this celery into smaller pieces because I'm gonna dice it, but I'm not doing it the hard way. I'm gonna use my handy chopper to get all the same size pieces. So we'll just slam it down like that. If it doesn't work the first time, do it again, it'll work. And we're just gonna dice up all the celery. And when you're done dicing it, it's just gonna be collected in that one basket for you so that you can dice the next thing. Now after you get that celery all nice and diced up like that, if you're using the carrots, go ahead and throw those in there too. Dice them up proper, because we're gonna mix that in with that celery and onion. And hey, if you wanna get fancy with it, over in France, they call that a mirepoix. I kinda like the term celery, carrot, onion au pois myself, but hey, I didn't name it. Anyway, just chop all this up, dice it, and then put it all together, and we'll go on to the next step. Know one thing, that brings some good looking color to this dish, that's for sure. Now the last piece of this mirepoix is that onion, but before I get too carried away, make sure you go ahead and preheat your oven to 375 degrees. That's what we're going to be cooking this casserole at today. So now take all the skin off that onion, chop it into pieces like that, and you can either dice it yourself, or hey, if you got one of my fancy little choppers, it's a whole lot easier. All the pieces are the same size, and you can just mix all that together. And now we got the carrot, the celery, and the onion all together. Man, will you look at that color on these things? That is absolutely beautiful. But now, the next part, we got to start cooking these things. So go ahead and get yourself a good olive oil, and make sure when you buy olive oil, it needs to be from a single source. Very important, because if not, it could be from 5, 6 different countries. You don't know if you're getting real olive oil, if it's a mix, if it's an extra virgin olive oil and a regular olive oil blend. Just do yourself a favor. If it only has one country on the front and the back, it's good. So just take a nice saucepan like this and go ahead and turn it on to medium heat, and let's start getting it a little bit hot. And just put a nice layer of olive oil right there on the bottom. You basically want to cover the whole bottom of this pan so that when we're cooking down these vegetables, they're going to get right. Just spread it around like that. Make sure you got a nice even coat. And let's throw in these veggies. And the salt and pepper. Don't forget the salt and pepper. And when it gets nice and steamy like that, you know you're doing something right. That's some good cooking. We'll dump those spices in. I'm going to start stirring it up and just cooking these vegetables down a little bit. And then once they've cooked down like this and they're starting to get a little translucent and soft, that's when you add in those frozen peas. You can thaw them a little bit on the counter if you want, but I just dump them in frozen because they're going to get cooked now and they're going to get cooked again when they go in the oven. And now it's time to go in with that ground beef. So we didn't cook those vegetables all the way because they're going to cook more with this beef in there. And that's just going to give it such a great flavor. You can do it ahead of time if you want, if you don't like your vegetables quite as soft, but I didn't cook them down all the way, so this is good. Now we're going to take a little bit of tomato paste, a little bit of Worcestershire sauce for exceptional flavor. See, it says that right there on the bottle. And some water and some of that beef bone broth concentrate that I get at Walmart, because we're going to just add some layers and layers and layers of flavor to this thing. You can add that bone broth concentrate into the water if you want to, but to me, I'm just going to squirt it in at the end. I want to make sure this beef is cooked down the way I want it cooked down, and then flip it over. I'm not trying to get a brown crust on here, just get it cooked all the way through. Then I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of that parsley and a couple tablespoons of that tomato paste. And that tomato paste is just going to give it a nice, rich, deep flavor in combination with a couple squirts of that bone broth concentrate. I probably did 2 teaspoons, maybe a tablespoon of that. And now comes the easy part. We're just going to dump all that vegetable and all that ground beef mixture right in a casserole dish. This is just a regular, I don't know what the size is, 9 by 12, whatever the casserole dish size is. That's what this is. I'm just going to dump it all in there, spread it out in a nice even layer along the bottom. And if you want to add any extra seasons like some Cajun spice or whatever, you can certainly do that. I'm just going to add my taters, well, my keto taters, right on top. This is the last layer of it. So traditional shepherd's pie is just like this. Super simple, great ingredients, very minimal seasoning, but seasoning enough to make it delicious. I think it's just time for some good tater spreading music. Just make sure you cover the whole top of it, push it all the way to the edges, because it's getting ready for its final ride into the oven. When it comes out, it's just not going to be the same again. Now, if you like some casseroles and you're not subscribed to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button down there, and anytime I make a casserole or anything else, you'll know about it. And I always set a timer. Some people don't like timers, but I'm going to set my timer to 30 minutes, and I'm going to check it and make sure that those taters, faux taters, are getting nice and golden brown. And after 30 minutes, they sure are. See all that bubbling, all that brown edges? And of course, you could leave it in a little bit longer if you want to. It's all a matter of personal taste. That's the cool thing about cooking. You can customize it just the way you like it. But when this thing comes out, oh man, look at that. Now tell me that does not look delicious. Just a little bit more there. No, come on, fill me up now. I'm hungry. And that's exactly how I make my shepherd's pie. The next recipe, oh man, it's a good one. It's a hot ham and cheese casserole. And it uses my ham balls that I made. I'll put the link to the video up there and down in the description also. And with any of these recipes, you don't have to use leftovers. You can make that recipe just to use in this dish. It'd be just fine. The ham balls are super simple to make, and so is that mashed potato recipe if you do it the easy way and not peel those radishes. So let me show you all the stuff you need to put together the ham casserole.
Well, before we get these ingredients together, let's go ahead and preheat the oven because it ain't gonna take long. So we're gonna go to 350 degrees, which is what we're gonna cook it at. The first thing you're gonna need is about 10 or so of those ham balls. Or just make them for this recipe and have you a few left over for an appetizer. You're gonna need some diced ham. This is about half a pack, so about 8 ounces of diced ham, whatever kinds you like. And you can't have ham and cheese casserole without cheese, so I like the extra sharp cheddar, but at least as sharp. You're gonna need some cream cheese, and I like to have it softened just a little bit to room temperature. And you're gonna need some fresh broccoli. I get the broccoli crowns just because I don't like the extra work. They're already done for you. Now all you gotta do is chop them into pieces like that, and they're gonna be ready to go in the water. I'm gonna shred up the cheese because you know you don't want that pre-shredded crap. And then I'm gonna boil some water. And once that water comes to a pretty good boil, I'm gonna go ahead and throw in the broccoli, and we're just gonna cook it until it gets nice and green. I mean, it's already green, but it's gonna go to a whole nother level. Now I'm gonna take the block of cream cheese, and we're only using half of it, so you'll have half left over for, you know, a nice keto dessert or whatever you choose. But just make sure you cut it in half, save the other half for something else. We're gonna throw that in just a minute. Now that's that green color right there that I'm talking about. It's like Incredible Hulk green. That's what I'd describe it as anyway. Once it gets to that point, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna throw it in the strainer and just let it sit there for a minute. But for our next step, you want it to still be nice and hot. Now it just ain't gonna come out right unless you put it in a yellow mixing bowl. So if you don't have one, go out and get you one. Find somebody that's got one. Hey, whatever you wanna do. But go ahead and add that cream cheese in while it's still nice and hot. If it's still steaming like that, you're doing it right. And then put that cheddar cheese in there too. The extra sharp is really a good taste. If you don't like it quite as sharp, you know, get a regular sharp, but mix it all together while it's still nice and warm. I'm putting this one in an 8x8 pan, so just make sure you spray it real good with avocado oil before you dump in this mixture. So once it looks like that, you dump your ham in there. Gonna give it a good stir. And if you didn't already chop up your ham balls, go ahead and do that because you don't want the whole big chunk in there. But all the flavor that's inside there is going in this casserole, and that's gonna make it absolutely delicious. Just make sure you get little small chunks just like that. You want it bigger than the ham, but not huge. Dump it right in there. We'll give it a nice stir. We're gonna make sure everything's well incorporated before we add yet another layer of flavor to this thing. This thing is stacks on stacks on stacks of flavor, if you didn't know already. So what I like to use is this all-purpose seasoning. Now if you've got a favorite seasoning that you like, feel free. I think a little bit of spice is really nice in this ham and cheese casserole. And don't worry, this stuff's not overly spicy. I'm all about flavor. I don't like to hurt myself while I'm eating. I don't need to win some kind of hot and spicy challenge. So just enough spice to make it nice. Then stir it up real good. Make sure everything is well incorporated in there. Man, can you see how good that's coming together already? You just eat it by the spoonful right now if you want, but I would recommend putting it inside this 8x8 so we can go to the oven with it in just a minute. Just make sure you spread it out real good, get it nice and flat on the top, because we're going in. It's got to make a landing pad for all this cheddar cheese. I reserved enough of the cheese to completely cover the top. Now if you don't like that much, or you want to make it a little less fat, you don't have to put as much. You don't have to put any really. It'll still bake up fine. But I'd recommend putting at least just a little bit on the top, because we want it to be real nice and happy when it goes into this oven to get ooey gooey and ready to eat as one of the ultimate keto casseroles. It's one of my favorites. I think it'll be one of yours too. Now, this is what it looks like when it comes out of the oven after 25 minutes. Now tell me that don't look delicious. Go on, make you some of that.
If you like quick and easy keto recipes, I'll put a playlist right over here. You can click on that and watch it next. It's got a lot of great, easy keto recipes in it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.